Thank you everyone for joining us today. We're going to be talking sustainability with our friends over at EcoCart. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Ashley Scorpio. I'm the VP of Partnerships at Hawke Media. Hawke Media is a digital marketing agency and consultancy based in LA with offices in New York and Boston. Over the course of the pandemic, we actually went fully remote, so we're spread across 22 different states and counting so far. We offer custom data-driven marketing solutions and strategies to startups and businesses of all sizes. All of our marketing services are not only a la carte, but also month to month. We've worked with over 1,500 brands since our inception. Our bread and butter really is e-commerce, although we can of course support any brand or business in any industry that is looking for digital marketing support. In the past 7 years, we've grown from 7 employees to over 180. So that's who we are over at Hawke Media, and it's my pleasure today to host, like I said, our friends over at EcoCart. For anyone who doesn't know, EcoCart is an e-commerce plugin for merchants that offers carbon neutral orders. And it's also a Chrome extension for shoppers that are specifically looking to lower their carbon footprint. So extremely timely conversation we're going to be having today, given that last week was Earth Day, for anyone who's aware. And I'm joined today by Dane Baker and Benedict Fonmarais. And a little bit about Dane. Dane is the CEO and co-founder of EcoCart. Prior to EcoCart, he actually set out to make the world a better place through entrepreneurship, such as limiting materialistic consumption and waste with a peer-to-peer rental marketplace and providing the gig economy workers with the wages and benefits that they deserve with a first of its kind gig economy employment platform. Benedict has a master's degree in international energy from the Paris School of International Affairs. He started his career as a sustainability strategy consultant for PwC. His experience working with the World Wildlife Fund, the UN, and several large corporations across different industries shaped his belief in the transformative power of consumer spending in the fight against climate change in this current crisis that we find ourselves in. In order to harness his expertise, he's now seeking to democratize access to carbon offset solutions as EcoCart's Director of Business Development. So we have a wonderful panel for you all today with Dane and Benedict, and I'll let them take it away since they have a fantastic presentation prepared to share with all of you.
Ashley, thank you so much for the amazing intro. Really appreciate that. And we love our friends at Hawke Media as well. We're super excited to be here. We're honored. And thank you all to everyone who's in the audience and who's taking time out of their day to listen. Obviously, it's a very important topic, and I'm sure you all are fully aware of the importance of the topic and how timely it is. So appreciate you taking the time to understand a little bit about how sustainability can actually help brand building from the ground up and help in a lot of different ways. And we have a little bit of a presentation for you today that we're happy to walk you through, and would love to then at the end actually spend a little bit of time for Q&A. But even if you have questions throughout, would be happy to answer those as well. Want to make this interactive as possible, so we'll have time at the end for Q&A. And we have a little bit of a couple polls for you throughout the process as well, which can make this a little bit more fun as well. So we are excited to be here, even virtually. But yeah, we're super excited and happy to kind of walk you through what we have to say today. Awesome. Okay, so we can kick off here. As you all have probably seen, last week, everyone came out in droves on Earth Day to showcase and show support for the planet in many different ways. And Earth Day today is an incredibly important holiday and something that's very, very popular, celebrated by over 1 billion people worldwide each year. We're taking it a step further this Earth Day, making it an entire month long, and so now you see is Earth Month, and so obviously not only is this an incredibly important holiday to kind of bring awareness to our planet, but it's also an incredible opportunity for brands to really showcase and share with their community and with their customer base, with their stakeholders, just how just what exactly they're doing for the Earth and how sustainability can play a huge role in their branding. And that's kind of what we're here to talk today about. It's the thesis of this presentation really is, about not only just how important this whole initiative is, just around, for a much larger mission and ambition than kind of what we're all doing on a day-to-day basis, but also how it can truly help brand building. And that's kind of the crux of how we're trying to weave the two concepts together for you today is how it can really be a helpful brand building exercise and help in a lot of different ways. And spoiler alert, including things like conversion. And we'll get to that in a little bit. So obviously, COVID has had incredible effects on our day-to-day lives. One of the most immediately understandable effects of this has been in e-commerce. And so we have had just a huge e-commerce boom really over the last few years. And something that has accelerated this really tremendously has been the stay-at-home orders. Now, since March of 2020, e-commerce sales skyrocketed. So in April of 2020, e-commerce grew to 27% of all retail sales. And this is up from just 19% just at the end of 2019. So a huge acceleration of e-commerce. It's kind of a no-brainer. This is expected to actually skyrocket to half of all retail sales by 2028. And so we're, have seen some incredible growth and adoption acceleration over the last few years, and that is only going to continue. So with that boom, at the same time comes some really, interesting complexities around, kind of the inherent tug and pull between convenience for consumers and kind of, having that differentiator from a brand perspective of fast shipping, et cetera. But at the same time, having that kind of, tug and pull against some of the ethical elements of what of the effects on the planet. And so that's, kind of the inherent issue with what many brands are actually running into today.
So I have a question here. This raises a lot of really interesting points, I think. And, some sustainability, based on even your comments, but even what we see ourselves in the marketplace and myself as a consumer, this is a 10 Trees t-shirt I'm wearing today, which is a brand I love because they're sustainable and they use sustainable materials. And for anyone who doesn't realize, the name 10 Trees is for every item sold, they plant 10 trees. So even as a consumer, sustainability is really important to me. My question would be, and I'd be interested to know, do you think there's a difference between how you address that need in an online or e-commerce environment versus in a brick and mortar retail environment?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think that, there's the kind of, now that everything is online or most things are online and it's only accelerating, there's kind of a built-in benefit in that in a traditional retail environment, in a physical retail environment, you're kind of constrained, right? To showcasing, you're constrained by the real estate, whether that's physical real estate of a product on a label or shelf space or signage in a store. And that's pretty in stark contrast to e-commerce, where the real estate is by and large unlimited. And you can showcase, you can spin up pages, you can showcase your sustainability initiatives throughout the entire customer experience, really at no incremental costs from a real estate perspective. And that's a really important part of this because branding and touch points are really important, especially as you're communicating such an important initiative out to your customers. And so e-commerce lends itself really, really well to just showcasing sustainability initiatives to your customers throughout the entire customer experience. So yeah, I mean, it's really good. It's a really good point. And I think that that's kind of what we're seeing today with a lot of our brands that are, almost in many cases, e-commerce first, because that lends itself so well to showcasing sustainability initiatives throughout the entire customer experience.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, great question. And kind of just to kind of continue on here, like fast delivery, of course, easy returns are great. It's what everyone is demanding in kind of in the sort of Amazon age or Amazon era. And this is popularized, of course, by giants such as that. But really there's a kind of again, there's this underlying effect to the planet and other areas of of life that this is actually manifesting, and people are becoming much more, aware of this. Obviously, like the immense growth in e-commerce has actually exacerbated the environmental impact of online shopping, of course. Last mile delivery is expected to increase emissions by 30% by 2030. And this is something that is, without a solution, is going to become quite troubling. In addition to that, we see the cardboard equivalent of up to 1 billion trees actually used in packages each year. And that doesn't even really account for anything like plastic or any other elements like that. So very, very top of mind for many consumers today.
Wow, that's kind of overwhelming to think about, even like to your point about being primed in this Amazon era of what the expectations are by consumers for virtually every brand, even outside of marketplaces like Amazon, and brands obviously trying to keep up and deliver on that promise or that expectation that consumers have in order to compete against those marketplaces. It's really interesting. I also think, at least on Amazon, they kind of bury it, but there is an option to reduce your packaging that you receive, or also to combine your orders to make sure if you're ordering multiple items, you receive them in less packaging. But of course, not every store has the ability to implement the same things on their end because they don't necessarily have the infrastructure. So I think that begs the question a little bit, what can these brands and businesses do? But more importantly, based on this massive disruption that we saw with the COVID-19 pandemic worldwide, that obviously disrupted all kinds of industries across the board, do you think that, any of our climate concerns, which pre-COVID may have been one of the biggest pressing global crises on the planet, do you think that sort of took a back seat based on being overshadowed by the pandemic and all these disruptions?
Yeah, absolutely. I think really great question. I think everything got put on hold. And it's a really, it's an important question, because now that we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel, we're sort of emerging with this like new kind of a reset on what is important in life, not only with, work and family time, but also just realizing that there are other things to consider as well, like how important the planet is. And, as we kind of start to redefine how we live, how we work, et cetera, it's starting to become center stage again. And even, before the pandemic hit, we're hearing a lot in our conversations, especially with, much larger brands, and conglomerates that, have multi-year plans. We're hearing every day that, sustainability was a huge focus for all brands, all companies up until the pandemic hit. And then all of a sudden, everything had to be retooled. But then now, as we're starting to see, the light at the end of the tunnel, like I mentioned, we're starting to see these brands are kind of coming back to us, kind of, knocking down our door, so to speak, coming back to us. And those that have said in the past, not right now, we're focused elsewhere, are really, really starting to come back in droves. And it's becoming a really, really, needed solution. The demand is clear. That sustainability is something that all consumers and brands are going to need to have a focus on. So couldn't agree more. And that's definitely something that we're seeing today, even in our conversations on a day-to-day basis.
Awesome. I think we had a little bit of a poll for the audience at this point. So if we could get that out to everyone and see what your thoughts are, if you want to let us know. The question is, if it hasn't already popped up on your screen, when you buy something online, how important is a brand's sustainability effort in your buying decisions? Is it very important? Somewhat? Are you neutral? You don't care, you don't know, you're apathetic, or it's not important at all? Let us know. We're very interested to see. And I'm sure these guys have some insights as to what they've seen from consumers across the board as well.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Yeah. So let's see if we can see some results here. I'm not sure if we can visualize that in the presentation.
Let me see if it pulls up
As they trickle in.
Definitely. Yeah, as panelists, we don't get to vote, but we can hopefully see what you guys think if you respond to the poll.
Yeah, the idea here is to just kind of use your gut feeling. And then once we close the poll, I think maybe we can see the results. And just wanna, I think now we can close the poll just to kind of see what we got. Trying to check.
There we go.
Nice.
Oh.
All right.
And
nice.
Obviously, I couldn't vote, but I would have been very important.
Me as well. Me as well. I tried to vote, but I couldn't. So this isn't even skewed. I think these are a real representation of how you all feel, and it's pretty in line with what we're seeing, right, Benedict?
Exactly. No, and this is very in line with what we're seeing from the market. So these are statistics from Shopify, and 2 out of 3 online shoppers actually check if a brand is sustainable before they purchase, and more than 9 out of 10 online shoppers want to support brands taking climate action. And this ties back to what we talked about earlier, is that obviously there's a huge push to moving towards e-commerce as opposed to brick and mortar store, and a lot of that push comes from a younger audience, and it's that younger audience that is more sensitive to climate change issues. Obviously, millennials and Gen Z grew up experiencing more and more extreme weather events, so we have that immediacy of the need to do something, and that translates in consumer behavior, as these statistics clearly show.
Yeah, that was actually what I was going to ask, is what you think is driving this change. It seems to be very obviously along these demographic lines. Do you think there are any other factors beyond that?
Yeah, age is a big factor, like we just mentioned, and it's a generational change. If you think about the boomer generation, they lived in a time of abundance with little thought to the long-term implications of their actions, and because of these extreme weather events and global warming, and also education, where a lot of the younger generation are being taught about these issues in school. All of this combines to a much higher general awareness about these topics, and is why the younger generation is definitely driving that trend.
Okay, boomers, they need to pay attention and not so careless anymore, and take note, maybe learn from their millennial children or centennial grandchildren, and learn about these issues and the impact that even their purchasing power and decision making is having.
You're exactly right.
Couldn't agree more. And consumers, really are very concerned with this, and it's something that actually has a huge opportunity. With that kind of breeds a huge opportunity to actually connect with your customers on a much, much deeper level. Today we see some really interesting things in our world that brands every day are kind of giving us and telling us more and more interesting stories about their customers. We see in reviews of our product, we see in conversations every day around how their customers are connecting with them on a much, much deeper level. And one immediate example of this is this kind of user generated content that we actually saw completely organically on Instagram. I'll go ahead and play it. It's for a little bit of background, I was literally just scrolling through on my own personal Instagram one day, and I follow APL, which is one of our brands that we work with, and they reposted this video on their Instagram, and I was like, this is interesting. Because it tagged us at the bottom. I tagged EcoCart, and so I was like, I gotta watch this. And this is I kid you not, totally organic. No, I was as surprised as everyone else just watching this. So I'll play it really quickly. It's maybe a minute or a little bit less long.
The reason I want to talk about these shoes is because, first of all, they're cruelty-free and vegan. Thank you. But second of all, on your shipping, you have the option to check a box to make it a carbon neutral shipment. So basically, carbon emissions from this package, they make up for by working with organizations. So for me, the cost was $1.60, and it went to the Tri-City Forest Project, which plants trees in Massachusetts. So
cool. I hope you all were able to hear that. Does the sound come through, Ashley? All right?
It was a little quiet, but I think we got the gist of it. Honestly, for UGC, for user-generated content, that may as well have been an ad.
Yeah.
But for anyone who couldn't hear, the consumer, the end buyer here, was so stoked on her purchase that she actually took to her channel to tell all of her followers and friends and family about not only the brand, but the customer journey on the purchase step, and how she could select the EcoCart option to offset and make it carbon neutral. So that's pretty cool.
You got it. That's exactly right. And this is, again, something that is, I mean, as you can, this is kind of the perfect manifestation of how this is connecting with consumers on a much, much deeper level. All of these stats that we talked about in the beginning of the presentation, this is kind of the manifestation of that in like a real world example of just a real regular consumer who received a pair of shoes in the mail, who checked the box at checkout and was just incredibly excited about the fact that it was carbon neutral, receiving it to her doorstep. And so you can't really make this stuff up. This is very real. Consumers are really forming really deep connections and long-term connections with and loyalty with brands because of these directly because of these initiatives. And kind of in addition to that, like in 2021, where maybe in stark contrast to maybe 5-10 years ago, sustainability was kind of an afterthought back then. It was something that was kind of confined to a small subset of a CSR page and like the footer of some website. Now it's center stage. We have our brands that are incorporating EcoCart on like the homepage, on showcasing their environmental impact, on like everything about their brand. I mean, we see brands that are being spun up today as like sustainability companies as at their core. Clean Cult is a perfect example of this. That's kind of, I mean, it's a sustainability company that's like cloaked as a cleaning supply brand, where by virtue their successes and their brand loyalty is, I mean, obviously they have an amazing product, but at the end of the day, their entire spin and kind of what they stand for as a brand, inherent to their core brand's fabric, is sustainability.
Yeah, and like you mentioned in the beginning, I have a background in sustainability consulting, and as such had access to a lot of large conglomerates that were just beginning their sustainability journey. And it's the same with a lot of the clients that approach us that are just now kind of getting started. And I call it a sustainability journey because a lot of these companies, they did not start with that sustainability mindset from the beginning. And so in order to truly have the biggest impact they can have, they would have to overhaul their entire operations. They would have to have better visibility into their supply chain. So it seems like a huge task to actually achieve a sustainable business model. And to be fair, all of that, it really is needed if we actually want to limit global warming to 2 degrees by 2050. But and this is an important but, there are ways in which you can have an immediate impact right now, today, as an e-commerce company, as you shift in a larger sense towards a more sustainable business model. And that's what I want to talk about today. Packaging is a huge issue in e-commerce. Every year, the equivalent of a billion trees gets used in packaging. And that is a large part of the carbon footprint of this industry. And our friends over at EcoEnclose are a good example of how you can limit the impact of your packaging by using recyclable and sometimes even compostable packaging materials. Like you see here, mailers, boxes. The third image actually shows a compostable alternative to bubble wrap, which is a big polluter in the e-commerce space, and also packaging. And by using a recyclable material, not only is it sustainable, but it's also recognizable. So it's also a branding play to communicate to your customers that you care about sustainability by using these materials.
So just so we're clear, most all of those are some paper or cardboard base versus anything plastic. Is that correct?
Exactly. And it's recycled cardboard at that. So
makes sense.
Yes. And then in shipping, there are some little guidelines that you can keep in mind as well. One would be to ship in bulk. So try to avoid small orders in quick succession, and offer discounts for bulk orders. And then here we also have a very good example of how to minimize packaging. So this is a shoe company that actually mails the shoes in the box that they come in, instead of having a box within a box when they send their shoes. So they are really, you have to think outside the box in terms of how to limit packaging for your products. And this is what this company did. And then the last one is interesting. It's important to bundle orders and to offer the opportunity to bundle orders to your clients. And this has become more and more important ever since COVID hit, because a lot of e-commerce companies were kind of relying on fulfillment centers to handle their shipping and distribution. And oftentimes what that resulted in was that a lot of e-commerce companies were relying on a single distribution center for their distribution. And then once that one distribution center was facing bottlenecks, all of a sudden all your orders are delayed, and you're stuck with consumer complaints about where their orders are. And so one way that companies are dealing with this is actually to hedge their bets by engaging with multiple distribution centers. And that way they don't rely on one single one. And what that also allows them to do is have a greater visibility over their inventory. And then if a customer orders something from a specific distribution center, what you can do now is use the excess products that you have in that specific distribution center and offer them as an upsell on your existing orders, and that way make the most out of your inventory, bundle orders, and sell more by also doing good for the planet. And one example or a case study of a brand that is doing very well in terms of sustainability is one of our brands that we work with called Newzest. And they're really going above and beyond, and are always trying to think of new ways in how to get more sustainable. So Newzest is actually a pea protein company, which pea protein is a very healthy source of protein, but it's also interesting to note that in the protein market, the bulk of protein is being produced from whey. So whey protein is the main protein used, and whey is a crop that is that damages the soil that you planted in. It is also a very water-intense process to plant it. So pea protein is a lot more sustainable in terms of production, and they also make little details, make little changes, little details to their order that actually have a big impact. So here, the spoon that you can see, for example, is actually a metal spoon, and it's industry standard in the protein powder industry to use a plastic spoon. So by having a reusable item, it's another way in which they're making their products more sustainable. And even though they had that angle baked into their brand's DNA from the beginning, they wanted to do more, and that's when they approached us. And together with them, we analyzed their manufacturing process. We analyzed the protein power blend, as well as the materials used in manufacturing the canister that it's being shipped in. And then we take into account shipping distance and product size, weight, and dimensions to calculate an estimate of the carbon emissions involved in the production and shipping of this product. And then we take that emissions amount and translate that into a dollar amount that customers can opt in at checkout.
Wow. So your process is extremely involved, and it's not just the shipping piece. You're even taking into account the whole production of the product as well. That's pretty incredible.
Yes, exactly. So we've developed a proprietary algorithm that uses a large database of different products to make educated estimates on the carbon emissions involved. And then our customers can go the extra mile and work with us, like Newzest did, to give us the exact details of their product to make that estimate even more accurate.
Awesome.
Yeah, and so despite Newzest being really an inherently sustainable product as a whole, they really wanted to kind of take it a step further, and they wanted to offer their customers the ability to kind of play a role in their sustainability journey. And so that's really exactly what EcoCart offers here. And so as you can see on the screen, this is their checkout flow. This is their side cart that kind of pops out, and right before you go and check out, it showcases the EcoCart option. And this is it's a great way to show your customers in kind of the most immediate right in your face way that, hey, this is what we're doing for sustainability. This is, we offer you, not only is this, our product is inherently sustainable, but we can actually offer you, take it a step further, offer you the ability to make your order entirely carbon neutral from the unavoidable carbon footprint that comes along with the, getting an item to your doorstep, which is shipping and manufacturing. And so that's what they do. That's what they partner with us to do. And you can kind of see the output of this right here in the checkout flow. And the checkout flow is somewhere that this is kind of placed pretty strategically, because the psychology behind this from a consumer's perspective is you go to check out, and at the exact right moment, the most sensitive part of the customer's journey, the checkout experience, they get to see mission alignment with the brand. And that helps them, psychologically nudges them in some way to kind of convert on that sale and not go and price check elsewhere, et cetera. And so because of that, we're seeing some amazing results across all of our brands with like I mentioned earlier, cart conversion increases. And in Newzest's case specifically, they saw a 22% lift in their cart conversion rates as a direct result of using EcoCart. They also have a pretty high adoption rate. I think it's greater than roughly 1 in 4 is the kind of adoption rate we see across all of our brands, and Newzest sees a pretty similar adoption rate. Really, it's a strong case, and the cart conversion piece is really the perfect data output to show just how much your customers are really care about this.
That's incredible, because I think a lot of marketers and merchants here might be extremely wary about adding any additional step to their checkout process, even something as simple as an optional little checkbox here.
Mm-hmm.
But clearly, from the data that you've presented, it's obvious that this is actually a conversion rate optimization tool,
Mm-hmm.
and not a detriment. So it's so important that your brand and your values align, and your mission in your actual customer journey, in your process, that you walk the talk. And I think this really speaks to as well, having that alignment between your offering, not just with the product itself, that it's sustainable and what have you, or in recycled packaging, but it's also carbon neutral alongside the audience that you're targeting. And I think it's clear that overwhelmingly, this is less of a niche audience of consumer that cares about sustainability. This is becoming the standard that, in particular, like we've talked about, younger consumers are expecting. And we all know that the purchasing power of millennials and Gen Z is actually astronomical. And the amount of purchases that Gen Z also influence, even if they're not the direct household buyer, is even bigger. If you think about some of them who are still at home and talking to their parents who are, let's say, head of household or the key buyers. The other thing that really struck me here with you guys showing us this example is how affordable this is. It's less than $1. It's 87 cents. For a $50 item to make it carbon neutral. It seems like a no-brainer for a eco-conscious consumer.
Absolutely. No, couldn't agree more. And we see that's kind of the real reason why we see such high adoption rates. Again, we see 1 in 4 on average consumers check this box at checkout. And that's, it's really, really high, considering if you compare that to just general cart conversion rates, sometimes in the sort of low single digits. And so that adoption rate is, a perfect example of really, just how easy this is to do, how much your customers care about this, and why it's just such an important initiative to incorporate into really any e-commerce experience.
It honestly seems like it could be something that a brand, a merchant, a marketer could incorporate into their marketing strategy. If and when they onboard EcoCart, this could be an announcement. This could be a rollout. They could have, an Instagram post saying, hey, we now have EcoCart available on our site and for our checkout process, and this is what it means. And they could put that in their email sequences and their sort of like onboarding or welcome series that they might do with their life cycle campaigns. There could be a whole rollout around incorporating EcoCart into their marketing mix.
Couldn't agree more, Ashley. And you raise a really interesting point. You might have been reading my mind, actually. We see tons of our customers, our brands, we provide across really like a lot of marketing material. And they use this marketing material and they incorporate EcoCart really everywhere. So they do like email blasts to their customers the second that they onboard with EcoCart, showcasing, hey, this is exactly what you can do to make your order carbon neutral at checkout, and this is what we offer as a brand. And in addition to that, there's so much that our brands do across the entire customer experience. EcoCart is really much more than just a checkbox at checkout. It truly is an entire sustainability experience. And so we do a lot with our brands to incorporate EcoCart throughout the entire customer experience, whether that's on their homepage or on a separate like impact or sustainability page. We provide the like real-time counters, impact counters, to showcase how many tons of or how many pounds of CO2 that you as a brand have offset by way of your customers, or how many trees have you saved as a brand. And these are really important metrics that your customers can kind of look to and see what is the tangible result of when I shop with this particular brand. There's a lot that we do even on the individual product pages or the PDP to showcase, while the customer is still in the discovery mode of what am I looking to purchase here, am I even looking to purchase, they can see at the PDP, this, when I buy with this brand, I have a carbon neutral option with EcoCart. And this is something that we facilitate very facilitate very often and frequently. And then also, the transparency and consumer education is a really important part of this, because, that's really how you have your customers buy into this, is understanding what their carbon footprint actually is, and then showcasing exactly where their money would be going. And so we provide all of this this entire experience right here within your own shopping experience. So we don't actually, direct the consumer or the shopper outside of the experience at all. It all lives right here within the shopping experience. And it's a really powerful way to communicate this and make this more of a holistic experience as a whole. And we even have, some of our brands that actually choose to pay for all of the offsets on behalf of their customers, making all of their orders 100% carbon neutral. And so we see Adams, one of our brands that does this, that pays for the offsets on behalf of their customers, and how they showcase this really across their customer experience. And we do this, in with a lot of our brands. So, really we have carbon neutral badges that our brands can incorporate throughout their shopping experience. We have, again, product page prompts, top strip banners that you can, wherever you go on the site, you can see exactly what your purchase would be ultimately contributing to and how you're voting with your dollars. So a lot of really important and powerful marketing messaging, and a lot of benefits, again, beyond just the fact that you're doing good for the world and doing good for the planet while you're doing good at business. So there's a lot here, and it's a really powerful messaging. We think that we're kind of it's almost like we're sort of sitting on a gold mine here with these secrets to sustainability and how it really does a lot of good. And brands are starting to see that now. It's a lot of brands are starting to kind of we're seeing a lot of demand for the solution, so much adoption on the consumer side that it's something that's going to really become standard over the next few years. And it's really important to be on the kind of on the front side of that, so that your brand can really be highlighted as a sustainable brand from the very beginning.
Awesome. That's fantastic. I also love that you guys have the option that if the brand wants to or can take that on, they can also cover the costs for their consumer while still highlighting the good work that they're doing. So it's still clear to the consumer that this is happening on their behalf. I think that's fantastic. I've asked a lot of the questions throughout the presentation here. I'm assuming we might have a couple questions from the audience. If you're here and you'd like to ask a question of Dane or Benedict, please just drop it in the chat and we'll get through them. In the meantime, as we wait for some questions, is there anything else, Dane and Benedict, that you guys didn't touch on throughout the presentation that you think is just important to note, or an interesting point, whether it's specific to EcoCart, to sustainability more broadly, or anything else that might be relevant to our audience today?
Yeah, I have something. It's when it kind of tell you a little bit more about the solution. Not only is our solution helping drive top line revenue and some really important business metrics, but it's also incredibly easy to integrate. If you're on Shopify, we have a Shopify integration, a plugin, an app right through the App Store. If you're on BigCommerce, we also have the same. We have other, direct integrations, and we do custom integrations all the time with WooCommerce and Magento and Wix, etc. Sorry, there's a fire truck rolling by. But yeah, we do so much with our brands to make it super easy to just integrate EcoCart. Again, we're trying to make as big of an impact as we possibly can, and the only way to do that is incorporate EcoCart into as many different brands and platforms and places on the internet that we possibly can. So we make it incredibly easy. It's actually completely free, which is even probably the best part potentially. You don't have to cut into your budget whatsoever. There's no ongoing fee. We, as a platform, as a company, make our revenue off of a flat transaction fee that's included in the price that the customer here pays, embedded within their carbon neutral order cost. So it is literally completely free. Takes very light resources are needed from an implementation perspective, and we handle all the design and configuration. So quite an easy thing. It's kind of what we hear a lot when we're having conversations with brands is it's kind of a no-brainer. And we couldn't agree more. We do a lot to make it a very frictionless experience, and we help throughout the entire process.
Wow, that's phenomenal that you guys have so many different native integrations, and also that it's free for the merchants. I think that's fantastic. Very low barrier to entry, if at all. Given how lightweight you said it is and all of the support that you guys offer, how long would you say it takes the average integration from interest of a brand to working with you to actually having it live on the site, just in general?
Yeah, great question. So let's just take a Shopify example. If you install our app, let's just say today, we can have you probably up and running in basically 1 to 3 business days. So we can turn around an integration quite quickly. We have an integrations team that handles the design and customization entirely. And once the design and configuration is done, we provide it over to the brand in the form of a preview. You could check it out, give us any feedback or changes to be made, and we can go ahead and push it live from there. So it's quite an easy, quick turnaround, and we again are quite experts in this space. We do this all the time, whether it's a kind of a complicated integration like a headless store, for example, or something that's even more custom beyond a Shopify or BigCommerce platform. We can do it all, and our team is someone who's our team is a bunch of folks who've really become experts in this space. So yeah, we can turn it around quite quickly.
Awesome. Another question was, do you guys mostly target sustainable brands to adopt the EcoCart plugin, which makes a lot of sense to me? Or do you also consider or go after or think about engaging those that aren't sustainable in order to at least make them carbon neutral?
You want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. So that's a very good question. I would say in the early stages of EcoCart, there was a bit of a self-selection bias among our customers, where it was definitely sustainable brands that were early adopters of this, just because they were already aware of the issue and so very ready to integrate at an early stage. But what we're seeing now is a shift towards companies that either haven't started any sustainability initiatives and would like to see this as a way to fast track their progress on that end, and just in general e-commerce companies who are just seeing this as an increasing demand from their customers. And statistics also speak to that as well. That the modern customer and online shopper is expecting this increasingly from where they shop. So I think we're seeing a shift from that early adopter crowd that definitely had that sustainability angle to now really mainstream brands that are approaching us and are looking to integrate this.
Awesome. Something else came to my mind. Do you guys have any sneak peeks or interesting upcoming product roadmap, maybe little previews you can give us? Obviously, you don't have to show us anything, but are there any further features you guys might be working on that might be rolled out to merchants in the near future? Yeah,
that's a really, really great question. We have a lot on the roadmap that we're really excited about. I think at a high level, like, one of the things that we're really excited about that we're seeing a lot of demand from our brands is, I love what we're doing with EcoCart. I think it's a great first step. Now, how do we take it a step further? How do we offset our operations as a company? How do we offset more than just shipping and manufacturing of our products? How do we potentially offer our customers a way to make their orders carbon positive. So there's a lot that we're doing with our brands because the demand is there, to kind of takes it a step further and makes it, much more than just a carbon neutral option at checkout. And so, we have our brands today that we're, in some manual way offering, the ability to kind of offset much more of their own carbon footprint. And we're looking to kind of expand that capability and offer really more granular insights for our merchants and for our community into what their own carbon footprint is as a company, and really what some actionable insights to take from to take action on your own carbon footprint as a brand. And so that's one part of it. Another is, we're really excited about just kind of creating a community. We have, a really engaged community of both consumers and merchants that are really excited to shop and to find brands and discover consumers that are interested in sustainable shopping. So that's what we're really excited about on kind of the two fronts at a really high level. It's one is how do we expand out our capabilities, and on the other side, it's how do we match our how do we create this, how do we foster this community more so than we're doing today, and helping on both sides of that marketplace.
Awesome. On that same note, giving the merchants more data, more choice, more actionable insights, and, presumably, I was wondering how this works with the different projects that you guys offer. You did mention one of them through one of the examples you presented to us. So I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about some of the projects that are currently offered to merchants, and then also if this is a question from the audience, if this is something that can be hand selected by the brand, if they can sort of pick which project they'd like to support, or if there is an option on their end.
Great question. Yeah, and Ben,
yeah, absolutely. So that is a great question. Right now, we have a portfolio of 25 offset projects that we support, and they engage in offsetting in a variety of different ways. So we have reforestation projects, we build wind farms, we have water filtration projects that keep wood stoves from being employed to make water, drinking water. And so there's a variety of different ways. And then our customers can pick one of those projects and then communicate about it across their different channels via prepackaged marketing content that we send out to them. And another option that they have is to dynamically assign the project based on a customer's location. So if me in San Francisco, I order something online, then the project I'm supporting will default to the Garcia River project, which is right in my backyard and gives me that feeling of immediacy when I choose to donate. And we actually also, as a white glove service with some of our larger customers, we look for specific projects that align more closely with what they're looking for. For example, one of our clients is Siete Foods. They're a Mexican-American food and beverage company that source all their products from a specific region in Mexico. And so together with them, we found a project in that specific region that also satisfied our criteria and the ones of our third-party certification bodies that certify these offset projects. And needless to say, that has become an integral part of their brand DNA going forward.
That's so fantastic. And that really ties into what we mentioned and what I was talking about earlier as to how this can actually become a part of the marketing strategy, whether that's the customer acquisition strategy with prospective new customers, first-time buyers, whether that's part of a re-engagement strategy, not only rolling out EcoCart as an option at checkout for the brand, but also talking about the specific project, if it's relevant to the consumer, and if it's relevant to the customer, where they are, sort of meeting them where they are, which is something we talk a lot about in digital marketing. I think that's all the questions we had for today, but I really enjoyed the discussion. So Dane and Benedict, thank you so much for joining us here at Hawke today to go through all of this with us. I hope all of the merchants here learned something and are certainly thinking about implementing EcoCart on their own sites. We will, of course, be sharing this recording with all of you after the webinar, and you'll be able to find it online as on our Hawke Media YouTube channel as well, in case you want to play it back and take some more notes. And of course, as you can see, Dane did include his email address here as well, just dane@ecocart.io if you have more follow-up questions for him, if you'd like to reach out to him and understand more about what you could be doing on your own store and how you can personalize it for your consumers like we heard about. But yeah, I just wanted to, again, thank everyone for joining us and hopefully enjoy the rest of your Thursday.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ashley, and thank you everybody for listening in.
Appreciate it. Talk soon, everyone.
Awesome.